President Moon Jae-in is in Vladivostok to attend a regional economic forum there. Top of his schedule was a bilateral summit with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. Naturally, the central topic was North Korea issues. Connyoung starts us off from the far eastern city.
Vladivostok, this beautiful port city in Russia's far east, sits the venue of the annual Eastern Economic Forum, now in its third year. But as South Korean leader Moon Jae-in makes his debut on the Russian stage, it's his bilateral summit on the sidelines of the regional forum that's gaining the spotlight, especially as his visit comes on the heels of a powerful nuclear test by North Korea over the weekend. First on the itinerary for the 4-month-old South Korean president, an exclusive one-on-one with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Opening the talks, the South Korean leader raised the possibility of the situation on the Korean peninsula spinning out of control.
여기서 북한의 도발이 멈추지 않으면 통제할 수 없는 국면으로 빠져들 수도 있다고 생각합니다. 그래서 북한의 도발을 멈추게 하고 북한 문제를 근원적으로 해결하기 위한 그런 방안도 함께 모색하기를 희망합니다.
The Russian president, who derided increased sanctions as useless and ineffective a day earlier, welcomed the opportunity to discuss North Korea with the South Korean leader.
I'm glad to have an opportunity to meet with you today and discuss problems of our concern related to well-known events related to North Korea's nuclear program, missile program, and of course, to discuss our bilateral relations.
At a joint media conference following a 3-hour-long meeting,
우리 두 정상은 국제사회의 거듭된 경고에도 불구하고 지난주 북한이 6차 핵실험을 강행한 것을 강력히 규탄하며
Russia does not recognize and will never recognize North Korea as a nuclear state. North Korea's nuclear test is a flagrant violation of the United Nations Security Council resolutions.
Although South Korean President Moon said his Russian counterpart expressed his full support for South Korea's efforts to, quote, tame North Korea, Mr. Putin said there is no sense of pushing North Korea into a corner as
Pressure and sanctions alone cannot solve the situation on the Korean peninsula. Without political and diplomatic tools, it is absolutely impossible to make headway in the current North Korea situation.
The two leaders did agree that the rest of the world must guide Pyongyang back to the dialogue table, but a hint of difference in exactly how that should be done.
The South Korean president asked for Russia's cooperation in ratcheting up the level of UNSC sanctions on North Korea by cutting off its crude oil supply. The Russian president said no matter how strongly it is pressured, North Korea will never give up its nuclear weapons, and expressed concern that severing Moscow's limited oil supply to Pyongyang will impact hospitals in North Korea and the ordinary people there.
As geopolitical tensions escalate in and around the Korean peninsula, South Korean President Moon Jae-in continues to reach out for global support in solving the North Korea problem. First up Thursday morning is another bilateral summit, this time with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Reporting from Vladivostok, Russia, Moon Jae-in, Arirang News.